Hello everyone! Creed 2 comes out this month, and I thought it'd be a good time to revisit all the Rocky films leading up to Creed 2. Here we go. The road to Creed 2 continues with my review of Rocky 5 from 1990. For every Star Wars, there's a Last Jedi. For every Godfather, there's a Godfather Part 3. For every Alien, there's an Alien 3. And for every Rocky, there's a Rocky 5. This is a low point of the series. I do not like this film, personally. I feel better about it now because it's not the final film, but for a conclusion, I thought it was horrible. But now that it's not the conclusion, I feel better about the film. It has some very underrated and overlooked moments and themes throughout the story, but it's just very weak. And it was just lazy. You could tell this was a vanity project. You could tell it was done for greed. Even Sylvester Stallone doesn't like how Rocky ended, which is why he made Rocky Balboa. If the creator doesn't like the film, it must not be that good. Now, this film will have its defenders. It's okay if you like the film. I think it's an enjoyable film, but that doesn't mean I think it's the best film or I enjoy it as much as the others. It has its moments. It's just a missed opportunity and just a downer after everything that happened in the first four films. Rocky comes full circle in many ways. He gets back to his dark street roots, but just why? Why did he have to be back at square one? What was the point of all the previous films that was going to happen? It's realistic in some way, but still, the execution of it I thought was off. To start off, this is 5 years after Rocky 4. Rocky 4 came out in 85, this came out in 1990, but the story takes place right after Rocky 4. Rocky fought Ivan Drago, he won, but he's feeling repercussions of the fight. His hands can't stop shaking. He ends up coming home. And his son grows 5 years. He's a teenager, even though he's 9 years old in Rocky 4. The continuity just feels out of place. You could definitely tell, even though it's supposed to be in the mid-80s, it feels very much like the early 90s. But I must say, I love Sage Stallone as his son here. Sylvester Stallone's real son playing Rocky's son here, and that is the best part about this film, is the father-son dynamic in this. I really like it. It's the strongest point of the film, besides him and Adrian. I really love his performance here. Again, you have Burt Young as Paulie, Talia Shire as Adrian, Rocky, but then you have Tommy Morrison as a man named Tommy Gunn, who I'll talk about in a bit. But Rocky comes back, and you have this scrupulous promoter who's pretty much like Don King, only in America, trying to challenge Rocky Balboa. Adrian says Rocky is retired, the press demand answers, and they go back and everything's normal, but something's off about Rocky. You find out that Paulie, while they're in Russia, gave their tax accountant power of attorney, which that's not how power of attorney works, so this would not happen. That's one most unrealistic part about this film. But he pretty much gave him power of attorney, and he basically swindled their money. So, they lose everything. Rocky is broke, and to top it off, he goes to the doctor, and you find out that he's brain damaged due to the punches of his boxing career and Ivan Drago. And he loses everything. He goes back to the streets of Philadelphia, back to the neighborhood in Rocky 1. And that's such a downer. He doesn't even get it back throughout the film either. That's it. And I agree that's a pretty good full circle theme. There's more to life than money. But that is such a crappy way to end the series. And as its own entry, it's okay, but it's just crappy. What? Why? He's not going to get it back or anything? Another reason why this film was undermined is that Sylvester Stallone originally envisioned Rocky dying at the end of this film. The studios are you can't kill an iconic character. And they didn't. And because of that, something I think was missing in the film. I wouldn't have liked Rocky dying. It still would have been horrible with the rest of the film. You could definitely tell that it was leading towards something that was taken away. And you pretty much have a film of what is the point? What is the point of this? And that's the problem with this film. Sylvester Stallone also did not come back to direct. But we do have John G. Avildsen return, the director of the first film. And I like it. It has certain elements from the first film in many ways. The lighting is a bit different. There were some deleted scenes in an assembly cut that is much, much better. You see Little Marie, she's a druggie. Not as hopeful and optimistic as Rocky Balboa's interpretation. But you have a longer fight at the end. Rocky and Adrian at a hotel. There's so many moments that were cut in the assembly cut that make it a stronger, a more drawn out film. This definitely feels like a 90s type of movie, even with Go For It and all the rap music and stuff of the early 90s. I like it. It has a good street vibe, but it definitely feels like it's early 90s. Let's have a Rocky soundtrack type of thing, you know? Like it's on the fifth movie. But I like seeing Rocky deal with being broke. There's a good scene between him and Adrian where he's like, "You think I wanted this, Adrian? You think I wanted to be broke? Go down in the street and see somebody say, 'Hey, there goes Balboa. He's just another bum in the neighborhood. I didn't want this.'" There is a good scene there. Tommy Gunn is a character that's from Oklahoma. He looks for Rocky to train him, much like Mickey did him. And that's pretty much the course of the film. He's living vicariously through Tommy Gunn as his son's adjusting to school, dealing with bullies. Adrian goes back to the pet shop. And for some reason, they forgive Paulie. I would not have forgiven him. Like, that's just a crappy thing to do, to give away all your money. Like, damn. That's true friendship and love there, man. It really is. But you also have the promoter there trying to basically blackmail Rocky. He knows about him having brain damage. It's not known to the public. And he pretty much tries to force him to fight another opponent. And he doesn't want to. So, pretty much in the film, you see him back in the streets, and there's an emotional moment with him and his son in his state cell. It's kind of heartbreaking. But you get to see him in his old clothes, and there's a scene with Adrian in her old glasses. But he goes to train Tommy Gunn, and it's great because it's almost like the next Rocky, and he's training this person. But through the course of the film, you see that he's not paying attention to his family, his son, and he's living vicariously through Tommy Gunn. And Tommy Gunn becomes more like a son than his own, and that's sad. You get to see his son start getting kind of street smart throughout the film. Anyways, they make it through a couple of exhibition matches, regular matches, up to the title. And that's when the promoter gets Tommy Gunn and says, "Rocky's not paying you enough." And he pretty much corrupts him and has him turn against Rocky Balboa. And that's where the film kind of gets interesting in a way. But the trailer definitely made it seem like it was going to be more epic and he was going to get his money back. And it's not like that at all. But what I really like about this film is the more character moments. You know, not the fight stuff, not the boxing stuff. The stuff with Rocky and his son, the Rocky and family, the neighborhood. I like that. How much has changed. How much he's come full circle. There's even one great flashback scene at Mickey's gym with Burgess Meredith. We get to see him in visions and flashbacks. That was a really, really well done scene in this. Ultimately, he ends up challenging Rocky anytime, anywhere, because the people can't take him seriously as the champion. They know Rocky Balboa is the real champion. And there's a moment where he punches Paulie, and he's like, "You should have knocked this bum out when you had the chance, Rocco." And he's just like, "I'll fight you anytime, anywhere." And Rocky has this killer instinct look, and he's just like, "Oh yeah? My ring's outside. Let's do this." Awesome street fight, even though it has like the music and everything. It's shortened up though. The original fight was longer. You got to see Mickey in a different type of vision, and Rocky lend a forgiving hand. Of course, I don't think they filmed him dying, per se. It was supposed to have him die after the fight, but they did away with that. So we get the street fight. I'm kind of bummed out that it wasn't a real boxing match, but I do respect it because it's very different, you know? And Rocky is a street fighter, so we finally get to see that. So it's kind of good in like a guilty pleasure. It's like so bad it's good way, you know? But the street fight is probably like the most memorable part of this whole movie. He punches the Only in America guy. Pretty much punches Don King. He's like, "Sue me for what?" But I love the ending with him and his son and the Rocky statue, and that's his legacy. That was the original ending here. And it was a powerful ending. It shows you that there's more to life than money. It shows you the importance of family. And even though Rocky lost everything, he still has a lot of things in the world, you know? It was just such a downer to see that, though. Like, Rocky deserved a better ending than that. The film on its own right now, I feel better about it. I really did not like this film. I still don't like this film, really. But with Rocky Balboa and the Creed films, I feel like this is a much better film because it's not the final chapter. But for this to be the end, it was a pretty shitty ending, to be blunt. But I give it a 2 out of 5 and a B. Rocky 5 is not the worst film ever. It's just for a Rocky film and the other films, it's not very good. And you can tell that they didn't pay as much time to the story or anything. It just felt like it was rushed and made for the money, you know? It felt like they just made it for the money and greed. And even Sylvester Stallone kind of admitted that, which is why he went out to make Rocky Balboa years later. But it does have its moments, and I do like the whole father-son training type of theme here. And his protege turning against him, that was something very different. Very different seeing Rocky deal with the neighborhood. Kind of bummed with him getting brain damage, but I did like it because for once they addressed the dangers of boxing, and that's what prompted Sylvester Stallone to write this. Originally, it was going to be a film about Ivan Drago and Rocky dealing with the repercussions of the last fight, and instead he kind of made it just with Rocky. And I liked that. I felt like he could have dealt with that without him losing his money and everything, but in a way it is full circle, but I'm glad he ended up making Adrian's in the next one and kind of having somewhat of a better life than he had in Rocky 5. It would have been epic if he got it all back or they had another boxing match after the street match. Who knows? But I definitely want to see a released director's cut because the assembly cut of this is much better and stronger in many ways. Like, I still feel bad about it, but it's like kind of like David Fincher's assembly cut of Alien 3. Alien 3 had a similar vibe. Like, there's a lot of bad sequels in the early 90s from awesome 80s films, but like Alien 3 was another film that kind of just pissed away everything like Rocky 5, but the assembly cut added much more to the film that made it a much better film, and I feel like Rocky 5 needs a high definition assembly cut re-release. And I did like John Alvinson coming back. It was nice seeing similar parallels to the first Rocky and having the director of the original come back to do the last, but there's definitely something missing without Sylvester Stallone directing what he writes, and I think there was something different him writing this. It's a parallel to his career, and there's a lot of opportunities and films that did not do well at the box office. So in many ways, he probably felt like Rocky of like, how can a person have this much and then suddenly lose it? And it's weird because like the Rocky films kind of follow Stallone's career. And I'm glad to see him back on top with Balboa and Creed onto Creed 2. Thankfully, this is not the last Rocky, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about Rocky 5 down in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe. As always, follow me in the Stardust app at Fred Film Fanatic. Here's some more videos you can enjoy my channel. And stay tuned for my review of Rocky Balboa.